Hello and welcome to the Cancer Education Series brought to you by MercyOne and Above and Beyond Cancer. My name is Chris Gooddale and I'm the Executive Director of Above and Beyond Cancer. And it's my pleasure to introduce our founder, Dr. Richard Deming, who will tell us about tonight's interesting new program. Dr. Deming?
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. It's a special program tonight. Instead of a lecture, we're actually going to have a conversation. And I'm going to be having a conversation this evening with Tim Neugent. And Tim's on. Say hi, Tim.
Hello, everyone.
So we hope we have this set up so that if you expand your screen, you can see both of us. And Tim and I have known each other for several years. We probably have met at various humanitarian and gala functions around the city. I remember the first time I remember distinctly meeting you, you were co-chairing an ALS breakfast and helping to raise some funds for that. But Tim and I met as a doctor and patient on May 1st of 2019. And that began a journey for Tim that we're going to talk about. And the journey, like many of you who have been through a journey through cancer know, has a lots of ups and downs and twists and turns and suffering and humor and joy and tears and laughter along the way. And somewhere along the line, and Tim and I are going to explore this, Tim realized that finding joy in his life was essential. And through the process of his cancer journey, he acquired a nickname. And his nickname is the King of Joy. And what we're going to explore in our conversation tonight is what joy is and how you find joy and how you find joy not by trying to go around suffering, but how joy can actually come through a journey that includes suffering. So I'm going to introduce now the King of Joy, Tim Neugent. And Tim, maybe just start by describing a little bit of your journey, and maybe start by the first time you heard the words, "You have cancer."
Well, thank you, Dr. Deming. And our relationship, I thank God for it. You've been a true joy in my life. And I want to thank Chris Gooddale as the Executive Director of Above and Beyond Cancer, who put this little show on for us tonight and has actually a series on cancer. In fact, I tuned in last week and was very impressed with the speaker, fellow by the name, I think it's Dr. Nish at John Stoddard, who gave the course on stress and positive thinking and driving away negative thoughts and so forth. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was spot on and it was excellent. So kudos to you for getting that program on last week. Well, I tell you, when 2019 was it was a tremendously interesting year, and it was quite a ride and a journey. In early January, I had a gallbladder operation, and it almost set a record. It was 10 inches long. They stopped counting at 100 stones, and I thought, oh, no wonder I was feeling so bad. And I'd gone down to Florida for a month and a half, and I still didn't feel very well. And so I called the doctor a couple times while I was down there, and they said, I said, I still have that same kind of feeling that I had before I had the gallbladder taken out. And they said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to the gym every day and I'm lifting weights. And I drove down 2 days after I had surgery, and the doctor said, well, what did you do? And I said, well, I'm lifting weights, and he said, that's kind of a major operation. You just had surgery. You shouldn't be doing it. You're hurting yourself. So he said, calm down, do water aerobics with the old ladies and enjoy yourself. And I said, okay. So I came back. The long short of that is I still wasn't feeling good. So I went and saw a gastro at Mercy, and eventually convinced her to do a CAT scan on me. And that was the results I received on the day before my daughter Katie's birthday, April 27th. I think the call came in at around 7:30. I'm never going to answer the phone before 8 o'clock from this point forward. And she was very candid and said, I don't have good news. And this kind of reminded me of the man waiting in the doctor's office and went in for a checkup, and the doctor came out and said, well, I got good news and I got bad news. And what do you want first? And the guy said, well, I want the good news. And he said, well, the good news is we're naming the disease, excuse me, we're naming the disease after you. So that's how I kind of felt on this call. They told me that I had 4-stage pancreatic cancer, and that where the cancer is doesn't look good. And that's when we hooked up, Dr. Deming. It was shortly after that. It was May 1st, you said. I thought it was like the next day, but so there had been a couple days lapsed. And from there, I got to tell you, it was full speed ahead. Damn the torpedoes. And we pulled together one hell of a team at Mercy Hospital, both in my oncologist, Dr. Wiebe, yourself, Dr. T, the surgeon, Dr. Freeze, who was the infectious disease doctor, and just a wonderful, I couldn't have been blessed more with a wonderful team at Mercy Hospital. But it was pretty stunning. And I asked, I think in that first early meeting, I said, this is pretty serious stuff. Can I get a second opinion? And as I recall, without hesitation, that whole team, including you, Dr. Deming, said, absolutely, and hooked me up with the connections you had at Mayo Clinic. And I went up to Mayo Clinic and met with the leading pancreatic cancer doctors in the world. And they were damn direct. I'll tell you, with my wife sitting next to me, who was a pillar of strength, they just said, there's nothing we can do for you. There's two things, reason why. And I guess it must have been a little later in this because I already had radiation. And they said, we can't operate because of the location of the tumors on the head and the neck of the pancreas. And also because you've had so much radiation, we can't cut through the tissue. So go home, enjoy what time you have left. And they gave me pretty much 6 months to a year. And that year expired, well, early May of this year.
And you didn't.
No, and I did. I'm still above ground, which is a blessing and a great thing. God's will.
So Tim, I'm going to remind you back to you're on the 8th floor at Mercy, and you've got a chest tube in, and you've got an abscess draining tube in, and you've got a bile drainage tube in, and you've got, I think an NG tube in, and you've got a urinary catheter tube in, and you are septic, and you've got stage 4 cancer, and you are not a happy camper. You are physically sick. You are philosophically suffering. And there were some low days there as we visited in that room up on 8th floor. Do you remember those days? And can you maybe just share a little bit of your sense of despair that you were experiencing in the hospital?
That's the interesting part, is that between Mercy and Mayo's diagnosis that I was given a death sentence, I really willed myself to God and said, if it's by your will, let it be. I just don't want to see my family. Don't let me linger. I don't want to see my family suffer. And I really did turn it over to the Lord and said, if you'd give me, and I said, you owe me nothing. I mean, if you gave me 10 more lives, I couldn't have had a better life than the journeys and the adventures and the life I've had on this lifetime. So I wouldn't use the word despair. I know there were some lonely days. I know when I got when I had those 11 tubes, including chemo coming in and things going out, and my lung being drained off, and because they punctured my lung with trying to get a bio stent in, and but I don't know that I ever despaired. I didn't think I was going to survive, but I was a man of very strong faith, and I had tremendous love and support by my wife and my children, my brothers and my family and friends, and the power of prayer. I had so many people praying for me, and I had this marvelous team at Mercy that were so kind and giving. And yeah, I suffered, and I can remember one day I think I just had gotten one of the E. coli or one of the infections that I got during this journey, and I was so cold that they kept piling blankets on him. My body was just jumping up and down on the bed, and I know I scared the living hell out of my brother Jerry. He was there in the room, and he thought I was having a coronary or something. But you know, I never despair. Suffering, yes, but and I don't know that hope is a proper word, because I really felt that I was on a one-way ticket here, and but my wife never did, and she just said, "You're going to get through this, Tim. You're going to get through this. You're going to get." So I think I had really very positive. I certainly had positive energy all around me, and my family and Diane, and so despair is not the word I'd ever use. No.
Okay. You know, and what I heard you say, you didn't use this word, but I'm going to throw it out there because we're going to talk a little bit about the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu's book called The Book of Joy. And one of the pillars of joy is acceptance. And you used a phrase that's similar to that, that you, if you were going to die, you know, you understood, you had a great life. Your family wasn't going to let you die. And over the course of several weeks, kind of one tube at a time, we got you disconnected, got some chemotherapy into you, got eventually some radiation into you. You got home. You had, as you said, a huge prayer circle, and you started to regain your strength. And as you regained your physical strength, you also regained your sense of humor and this concept of joy and being the king of joy. So acceptance is one of the pillars of joy. Humor, finding humor in difficult situations is one of the pillars of joy, and also gratitude. So I want to talk a little bit about gratitude. And I've had just the pleasure of being in the room with you, with your family, your wife, your children, your children-in-law, your brother, and obviously a sense of gratitude that you have for all that you have been given. Talk a little bit about gratitude and how gratitude helps enhance your joy.
Well, I got to tell you, I count my blessings every day. I did before this journey, but even more so during the journey and after the journey, how blessed I really am, and how rich I am in friends and family. And Diane, I never thought that Diane could possibly be as strong as she was throughout all this. I mean, you talk about hope and faith. I mean, and a blessing to me. She never for one moment said I wasn't going to make it. I mean, all the doctors, you know, everybody's saying, "Tim, you got a one-way ticket here," and Diane is saying, "No, you don't. You're gonna make it through this." And people, you know, it really was after the journey, more or less, or you know, certainly after I was discharged out of the hospital. I met so many people that came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Tim Neugent. You've got cancer. I heard this through so-and-so and so-and-so, and I've been praying for you." I mean, what a blessing. And people I don't even know are praying for me. You know, we had scheduled a trip to Italy and with some very dear friends, and they stormed all through Italy and Rome lighting candles for me. You know, we couldn't make the trip, obviously. So I am just been so blessed in so many ways, and with the team at Mercy. I mean, how can I ever hope for a better team than what I had there that took care of me? I mean, I'm talking all the way to the lady that cleaned my room. I mean, she'd visit with me every day, every day. How you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and even though I was losing weight, I was down to, you know, the poster child for the Holocaust camps. She'd say, "Oh, you're looking good today, Tim. You're looking good." I got all these tubes hanging out of me, and I'm 120, 30 pounds, whatever I was, dripping wet, and she's telling me how good I'm looking, and that,
Yeah.
you know.
Some well-intentioned lies never hurt anything.
I agree. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, she was wonderful. And,
I think the Pope forgives those lies.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Right.
as you know, nothing nearly like what you went through, but I fell off my bike and ended up in the hospital for a week. And one of the things I remember, and I'm asking you your thoughts about this, but are just the cards and I mean, it's like attending your own funeral. You all of a sudden see this amazing outpouring of love that comes to you because of what you have done through your lifetime to help other people. And all of a sudden you're there in the hospital, and the outpouring of calls and cards and prayer circles, and maybe talk a little bit about what it felt to be the recipient of so much love and attention.
I didn't know I had so much love and attention. That's the way I'd answer that initially. And yeah, that truly incredible. People that would come and visit me, I would never think that they would come and visit me, came and visited me in the hospital and gifted me and prayed for me and gave me well wishes. And, you know, yeah, I count that as a huge, huge part of my blessings, all that I experience. And it truly is joy, pure joy. Mm-hmm. That I can say that I had all these friends and family and people that visited me and gifted me, and I mean, with blankets and heated blankets. I got more blankets, you know, I than anybody, I'm sure. But the people were phenomenal. All people that came and visited me and prayed for me. It was a great part of the journey.
So Tim, let's transition to one of the other pillars of joy, and that is humor. Now, you've shared with me some of your early life, and clearly you had a colorful upbringing in Wisconsin, and had some great experiences, and pretty funny guy who likes humor and likes jokes. Tell us how humor played a role in your recovery, and to what extent does humor still play an important part as a pillar of joy?
Humor is clearly a pillar of joy, and without it, it sure would have been a lot tougher. It'd be very boring. And it would be much more difficult without humor. So yeah, I tried, and I think, I mean, I look at it, I don't know if others thought, but you know, I thought I was still pretty good. I had pretty good sense of humor all the way through the journey, all the way in the hospital, all those weeks I were in the hospital with all those tubes hanging out. I still maintained a pretty good level of humor. I remember all those tubes hanging me, and the nurses and so forth said, "Well, Tim, you got to get up and walk." And I said, "Well, I need like a mariachi band to walk me down the hall to carry, you know, the thing that was draining off the lung, and all these things that were hanging off of me." What I'd do, we'd walk, we'd have 6 or 8 people, and we'd visit in the hallway with people, say, "How you doing? How you doing?" You know. So yeah, I think humor is a big part of the I want to say part of the recovery. I think you got to have humor to sustain, and certainly get you through hard times.
Yeah.
So humor's a big part.
And I remember as you were feeling better, and we would have frequent visits, sometimes once a week, and I would always encourage you to tell me a joke, and we would sort of share share some jokes. So just so the audience knows, I told Tim, tell a joke. I want you to just tell a joke. And he said, well, which joke? Because, sometimes we had to have the nurses leave the room before we would tell the joke. But I said, you know, whatever your conscience allows tonight, you can tell whichever one of those jokes you want. So maybe either a joke or a funny incident that might have happened along the way.
Maybe I can do one of each.
Okay.
The first one is you, Dr. Deming. Now I was still, I think, still getting chemo at this point in time. I just can't put a time frame on this, but I was out of the hospital, and it was a Saturday evening, and I was, my wife really, Diane, insisted that I call you, and that's the other thing about my blessings. Dr. Deming, you take my calls on Saturday, Sunday, I don't care what time of day it was, and if you weren't available, I got a text back, I'll call you as soon as I'm available. And you did. I mean, that was amazing. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you were available. It's so compassionate. So I do thank you. And you were a big blessing in my life, and are a blessing in my life, and a pure joy to me. So I said, Diane, I was carrying about 25 or 30 pounds of water weight, and it was really from the belly down. And my testicles were so big that I could hardly walk. And it didn't look like my joystick couldn't be seen. And so I called you and I told you the story. I said, I'm pretty concerned. I've got, my legs are all swollen. I can't put pants on. I'm going commando. I'm chafing. What's going on? And he said, well, I think I'm pretty sure, Tim, that it's just water weight. He says, in fact, he says, I remember we have an appointment on Monday. This was Saturday. And I said, yes, we do have an appointment. He says, come in, I'll give you a
water pill.
Yeah, water pill. And boy, does that work. Holy cow, you better not be far from a toilet when you get one of those. Anyway, so he said, don't worry about it, Tim. Just we'll take care of this Monday. And I said, okay, if you don't think it's, and he said, no, I'm sure it's water. And then you said, and I was pretty serious, and my wife was pretty concerned. And you said, Tim, I'm never going to forget this night. And I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about, Dr. Deming? He said, well, it's the Saturday night that Tim Neugent called me to tell me how big his balls were. So I certainly won't forget that.
Yes, because I wasn't quite sure if you were bragging or complaining at the time.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, yeah, that's good.
Okay. And then do you have another joke for us?
Yeah, I'm really debating whether to tell this or not, but I don't know. Okay, so this man goes into his doctor's office for an annual checkup, and this doctor starts looking over him and says, stop masturbating. The man looks up at the doctor and he says, why? And he says, the doctor replies, because I'm trying to examine you. So a little off color, but I don't have many ones that have, that are general rated, G rated.
Okay.
So.
Well, nobody pulled the plug. We're still on the air, so I think we're okay. Going back to the pillars of joy, when it comes down to it, there are probably two pillars that are bigger than any, and those are the pillars of compassion and generosity. Yeah. And we're talking here about deep-seated joy. So there's this idea of just frivolous enjoyment, and we all like some frivolous enjoyment from time to time, sitting on the beach and drinking a beer, but a real deep-seated joy comes from something a lot more important. And part of that is how we help other people. I often talk to patients that are trying to figure out how to find joy in one's life. And I found that the fastest way to feel better is to try to intentionally make someone else feel better. This concept of compassion and helping other people through generosity and compassion. So maybe talk a little bit about your experience in the last year and how your compassion and generosity to others has affected you and brought you joy.
Well, a couple things is, and I'm going to tell the story of it was early May of this year, and you were looking at my CAT scan and my MRI, and you said, frankly, Tim, he says, there's no tumors anywhere in any of your organs. He says, the liquid that was around your lungs is all but gone. He says, the cyst on your liver is gone. You really, he says, quite frankly, you said, quite frankly, Tim, your CAT scan and MRI is pretty boring. And you turned around in all seriousness and said, now, Tim, you only have 2 jobs. And I said, okay, I'm ready. And he said, 1, be joyful. And I said, oh, I've always been joyful, even through this journey. He says, yep, you have. I agree. And you said, but the second one, you need to give joy to others. And that was really profound to me and totally agreed. And I slept on that. I called you the next morning. I said, Dr. Deming, I really thought about largely what you said about giving joy to others. And I said, as strong as Diane was, my wife just interrupted me, then she's running away again. I don't know what she was doing. She stole my phone. But anyway, you said be joyful to others. And I slept on the next day and I said, I really thought a great deal about what you said. And I know that as strong as my faith is, as strong as Diane and my family and the support I had and all the blessings that we already talked about going for me, I still know some of the anxiety and the emotions that come over you when you're on this journey. And I said, if I can give somebody hope, faith, strength, courage to face what they're fighting, I said, I want to do that. And that's when you named me the King of Joy. You said, don't speak anymore, Tim. You are going to be the King of Joy at Mercy Hospital. I said, I really want to do that. And that led to this series because the COVID crisis, as we all know, hit. And so I couldn't visit the hospital and things of that nature, but I still want to take you up on that. And I want to do that. And the other thing, people throughout my journey in life of earning income, which was fairly entrepreneurial, people helped me along the way. And I had a great deal of good mentors in one way or another help me. And so, I'm involved with Iowa State University Startup Factory, Drake University's Venture School, to help these fledgling people start a business. And giving, I'll tell you what, giving that time and some of my talent in that regard is much more joyful than just writing out a check for something, except for the new Deming Cancer Center. But helping others is a true blessing and a true joy in my life. And I've always felt people have helped me. I need to help others. And after this journey, as I said, God gave me a second chance for a reason. And I really think the reason is to help others through a similar journey that I've encountered. Yeah.
A couple of things that I'm thinking about as you're talking about it. I remember back at the pancreas cancer event in September of 2019.
Yeah.
Now, you were still going through treatment. You were still not at the top of your game, but you were there. Team Tim was there. Your family was there. And as you know, individuals with pancreas cancer is one of the cancers with one of the worst prognosis. And having individuals there it can be such a source of hope and inspiration to others. So just you being there was an act of real generosity, because I know you weren't feeling the best, and then having your entire team there. The other thing I would say is that this conversation you and I are having tonight came out of this. You're the King of Joy. Let's start spreading the joy. let's help others. So let's have a conversation about this. And then the third thing I would say, and want your response to this, I think of it like a hug. You may go up to somebody and give them a hug with altruism because they need the hug and you want them to feel better. But guess what? In the act of giving the hug, you get a hug back. And a hug works in both directions. And I think that's part of the science of why being compassionate and reaching out altruistically to help someone else, guess what? You are also the recipient of the love and compassion that you're giving to someone else. Yeah. So maybe that's just
you get paid back. Yeah, you get paid back manyfold from giving. And it's true, whether you give time, talent, or treasure. I've always found that through life, you get it back multiple times more than what you ever give, and that is really the true joy of giving is exactly that. And I told you about the first act of joy I did when I was getting my last CAT scan, and there was a lady in there, exactly my age. She'd told me, she asked me why I was there, and I said, I'm there to get a CAT scan, that I'm a miracle, walking miracle, but they're checking to make sure everything is still really good. And I said, what's your story? And she said, well, I make this kind of, long story short, if I can. She said, I had stomach cancer. She says, I've been operated on, I've had chemo, and looks really, really good. It doesn't look like there's any detectable cancer left. But she says, I got to go through radiation. And I said, and she was scared to death. She said, I'm really scared to death of it. And I said, what are you scared of? She said, well, I understand they tear into good tissue and all that kind of thing. And so I told her, I said, what you've been through in your surgery and that chemo, which I got to tell you, if Dr. Wiebe, the oncologist, my oncologist, wouldn't have taken me off of chemo January 5th when they found that I had no tumors, I would have taken myself off of the chemo, to be perfectly honest. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. But so I said, you've gone through the worst of the worst. I said, the radiation, you really, and I said, yeah, I mean, but I said, I was heavily radiated. I said, I think I had radiation every day for 20 days straight. And I said, I can feel a little bit a tug, but not pain. I mean, it's like a little tug, but I said, they are so accurate. They put this, tattoo on you and this machine just follows it. And they've got new technology now, such as the cyber knife that's going into the Deming Cancer Center. And I said, talk to your oncologist about that. And I said, and really I brought the joy I brought to this woman and the relief I could see physically, the relief on her. And, actually I told you the second, I gave you I told you the story. The second act of joy I did that day was there was a gentleman there in an Iowa sweatshirt. Now this lady that I just talked about, she went in to get her scan done. And so it was this gentleman and I sitting next door, and I'm drinking that chalky stuff, the barium, to get my CAT scan. And of course, my pancreas isn't working, so my digestive system isn't working as well as it did prior to going on this journey. And so I started tooting, and I kept saying to this guy, sorry. And I just kept tooting. And finally I said, I better go to the bathroom. So I got up and I'm tooting. Every step I took, I tooted. And this guy's looking at me. I'm saying, I'm sorry. Anyway, I had him laughing as much as I was laughing by the end of that. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to give, and it pays back in multiple ways.
Tim, a couple of things. What I often witness as patients go through their cancer journey, and you're no exception, is two changes that come about, and sometimes it's not changes, but accentuation of one's philosophy of life. And number one, patients come through their cancer journey with this sense of appreciation for everything and everyone that had helped them along their way, and this desire to pay it forward, to help others. And you've already described that. I've also see as patients come through these very difficult times of suffering and physical adversity, that they find an inner strength. And I wouldn't say cancer gives people strength, but cancer allows people to find the strength that is already within themselves. And coming through the journey, they have a better appreciation for their own strength. Sometimes a mountain just drops out of the sky in front of you like a cancer diagnosis, but sometimes understanding the strength you have, you may intentionally put a mountain in your pathway. So my question is, maybe comment a little bit about this sense of desire to help others, and also a bit about what inner strength you have found in yourself and how you're utilizing that as you're living your life now.
You know, that's an interesting question. I've always prayed for compassion and empathy in particular, because I was always a AAA personality, damn the torpedoes full speed ahead, and left some havoc in my way along my journey in life. And I think God has answered a lot. As I gotten older, I've gotten mellower, but I think after this cancer journey, those compassion and empathy in particular have become even more vibrant and strong in my life. I'm finding myself with ability to stand back and employ compassion and empathy where I never really did before. And that's really powerful and important to me. And I'm grateful to God that he's helping me with this. I may tear up here a little bit because that one's really profound. So, yeah.
So you and I both have a friend, Monsignor Bagnano, and I remember climbing Kilimanjaro with him, and he and I were riffing on this relationship between suffering and compassion. And I remember he said to me, geez, Doc, if you spoke Latin, you wouldn't be amazed by this relationship. You know, in Latin, the word for suffering is passion, as in the passion of Christ. Yeah. And the word compassion in Latin literally means suffering with. And so it's our own suffering that allows us to recognize suffering, not only in ourselves, but in others, and not just to recognize it, but to reach out to help relieve suffering. The Dalai Lama tells the story about the difference between empathy and compassion. So empathy is feeling someone's suffering. Compassion is trying to relieve the suffering. He tells the story of coming across a traveler on a path with a rock holding them down, and empathy is getting down on your knees and feeling the pain that the person with the rock on top of him is feeling. But compassion is taking the rock off the person and helping to relieve the compassion, relieve the suffering. And that's the difference between empathy and compassion, is to actually make the step to do something active to help someone else.
Yeah, we're both blessed to have Monsignor Bagnano in our life. Diane and I went to Africa with him to build housing. And I'll tell you, the guy was, I tell you, he has more energy. And, I thought I could sustain and work hard, up and down ladders. This guy, Monsignor, I mean, he was a machine. Great guy. And he's full of great compassion and empathy as well.
So, Tim, we've got a question that has come through, and the question has to do about music. Did music play a role in your experience, and does music bring you joy? And then maybe open it up into other things that have brought you joy that we haven't yet touched on tonight.
George Thorogood and the Destroyers are still all world, and James Brown, Wilson Pickett, they're very meaningful to me. But I never found music to be really any different in before the journey or after. I've always enjoyed music. I enjoy soul and R&B and rock and roll, but I can enjoy classical music as well. I enjoy all kinds of music, and I can't say that helped me that really helped me on my journey. But I was too surrounded by friends and family to ever listen to music. How was that? That's pretty cool.
And
what was the other question? What was the other part of that question?
Other things that we might not have talked about that are a source of joy to you. I remember you telling me, I mean, the stories of your family getting together in Wisconsin up at the lake, and we've touched on family, but some of the things that you have been involved with over the last 6 months that you that bring you this sense of joy.
You know, I've been spending a lot of time with this mentoring programs at Iowa State University in Drake, and that has given me a great deal of joy to help these people and get them to the next level and see them grow is pretty awesome. And that's been terrific, great joy to me. And the love and support that I've seen from my family and friends really is quite incredible, frankly. And the concern and the care, I would have never guessed to that extent at least, you know. We were always tight family and friends, but
so
yeah.
Tim, I know you're quite an athlete, and I know
Tell my brothers that, Dick, will you?
Oh, talk a little bit about physical activity and the role that physical activity has played in your life, in your recovery, and especially as it relates to your cancer diagnosis.
Right. That's a great question. You know, I was, again, very blessed and very fortunate. Before I contracted cancer, I worked at the gym every day, and I was in pretty darn good physical shape going into the cancer. Without being in the shape I was in, I'm not sure I would have survived it. I'll be totally honest. I mean, thank God I was in the shape I was to start that journey. And so physical, and then, you know, being in a bed and on chemo where I had no energy and just totally drained, I lost not only a ton of weight, but I lost a great deal of strength. And I'll tell you, I worked every day and I push very hard at gaining strength back. And I pray every day, night and before I go to bed, that God grant me the ability to gain additional strength from what I've had today. And I work and push way hard. You know, Dr. Deming, I'm very proud of this. This summer, painted my outside of my house with a brush. And I did it more for the physical exercise than anything else. And I remember 8, 9, 10 hours going up and down the ladder, and I could hardly do it anymore. And Diane would say, "Tim, just come in and take it." And I said, "No, I gotta just keep pushing through this." And that's the way I gain more strength for tomorrow and beyond. So I work out every day. And the people at Mercy, the physical therapist, gave me a workout plan. I still follow that. I'm still following that every day. I do that. And that's been a great help. I still have a ways to go. I'll be honest. I don't nearly have the strength I had prior to the journey, but every day I can tell you, I do get stronger. And I know that I got to earn it. I got to earn it. I got to work for it and earn it. So
I remember, Tim, the first time you came in and you told me you painted your house, I thought you got out like a canvas and some paints and you painted a picture of your house.
Yeah.
I said, no, I really painted my house, the whole house. Yeah. And did you fall down and hit your head somewhere along the line?
Well, I just asked my brothers. I hit my head often, you know, but that explains a lot right there. No, I fell down a lot on my journey. I fell down the shower a couple times and had the fire department lift the body up and out and things like that. But no, the painting was actually, other than physically wearing myself out, which was a good thing, I never really hurt myself too bad on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you another question. And this is just the ultimate question. What is the meaning of life? What has your cancer journey taught you about the meaning of life?
It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with all the others. And it is absolutely true that it is giving that we receive. I had a lot of that, maybe philosophy before, but not as intensely as I do today. And I'm grateful that you're giving me an opportunity to hopefully help some people down the road that have gone through this journey. Because it's, as you know, doctor, you deal with it every day. It's a tough road to hoe. And you got to be mentally, physically strong to endure it.
You know, and we've talked a lot about compassion, and every religion and the Bible also says, love your neighbor as yourself. Talk about self-love. Talk about compassion with yourself. Have you had to forgive yourself from things? Have you had to, how do you define or talk about self-compassion as an important part of being compassionate?
Well, that's a great question. That's an interesting question. I'm pretty critical of myself. I mean, I'm really critical of myself. And yeah, I think really since the journey, I've reflected on some things in my life that I'd like to have do-overs. Not too many. I don't have too many regrets, but I never had regrets before the journey. And I have a few now that I contemplated on, and I wish I could have a couple do-overs. But, you know, that being said, it led me on to bigger and better things, even those things. So, you know, I'm pretty realistic with myself, I think. I'm pretty honest with myself. I know that I've got to earn what I get. I've got to, like strength. I think that's a good example. I know that I've got to work hard every day to gain additional strength. It's not just going to be, it's just not going to happen without that.
Tim, have you ever forgiven anyone for something that they've done?
Absolutely.
And you're a human being. Are you worthy of forgiveness?
Yes.
And so can you forgive yourself?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of a way that we do get do-overs. I mean, we don't really get to go back in the time machine, but one way of kind of having a do-over is just to forgive ourselves for those things that we wished we wouldn't have done or had done differently.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said, I believe. Yeah.
I wanted to share with you a poem. We started off with kind of the first pillar of joy, and that is acceptance. And I'm a big believer that it's the difficult things in life that teach us what we're capable of, and that when things are all hunky-dory and just going fine, we don't learn much about ourselves. And it's these difficult things that, you know, we wish we didn't have to deal with that really teach us about ourselves. And this is a poem by Rumi, and it gets to the point of acceptance, and it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Beautiful.
Would you ever have thought that your cancer diagnosis would have been a gift?
No, I would have never thought it would be a gift, but I found it to be a gift as I evolved through it. I evolved to that before I knew that my tumors were gone. I mean, quite a interesting ride, you know? Yeah.
Well, miracles happen every day, and you're here on this earth for a purpose. And I'm so glad you've embraced the moniker of King of Joy, and that you are living your life seeking joy and spreading joy. We need more people like you around.
I appreciate that, Dr. Deming, and more like you.
Hey,
Dr.
look at the
Deming.
angel that just walked in. Hey,
Absolutely.
Diane.
The pillar of my strength right here.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for everything. You are the best.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you for sharing with everyone tonight. And thank all of you for being with us tonight. Chris, do we have any other questions from the audience?
Nope, no more questions at this time.
Okay. Well, this will be, has been recorded tonight, and it will be available on our YouTube channel and on our website. And I just thank you so much, Tim, for sharing your joy. It's brought joy to me tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and same to you, Dr. Deming, and same to you, Chris. And thank you for sending me Mary's information. I'm hoping to get involved with Above and Beyond Cancer. And I just want to take a commercial for you, Dr. Deming. You know, the unabridged dictionary, Webster's Unabridged, I looked up compassion the other day in the dictionary. And you know what I found? Your picture. Absolutely. Absolutely true. And
well, good.
you know,
I'm glad you found my picture and not your testicles.
Well, you know, they've been functioning good and the joystick is working. So whatever you did was good stuff. I gotta tell you.
Okay, everyone, spread the joy. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.